Stand up.
Hi there, it is Friday, and I have got two great guests joining me today. That's right, two. I've got both Sam Youngman and David Rothkopf, two of my favorite people to talk to about what the hell is going on in the world, help me understand it, help explain it, and I think you're going to like both of those conversations. I'm going to get right into the conversations. It is Friday, and there is a cavalcade of news. Yesterday was crazy, but there's just no way for me to get it all done today. So I am going to jump right to the conversations. I just will mention, of course, yesterday's news, a horrific plane crash in India, a United States senator being tackled and handcuffed, a U.S. district judge ruling that Trump broke the law when he federalized the California National Guard, and he must return those troops to the control of the California governor, Gavin Newsom. It's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, and they're probably going to decide for Trump and give him back his army. And finally, of course, Israel launched what it called a preemptive strike on Iran, declared a state of emergency in Israel, and Iran said this is a declaration of war and retaliated with a drone attack. So yesterday was absolutely crazy. Normally, I would really dig into covering it all, play a whole bunch of clips and mention these headlines. That's what I do at the beginning of every show. But today is Friday. It's Summer Fridays, and it's been a hell of a week of news. I'm actually exhausted by it all. I had an amazing time at our hangout last night, was up late, and now I'm up early because I'm driving to Vermont for my friend's 50th birthday and right back here for the No Kings rally in Rockland County, New York. I hope to see you at a rally or in support of one, whatever. Either way, I'm so happy that you're here. I cannot do this show without you, and grateful, so grateful for your support. If you're a paid subscriber, please go to patreon.com/Pete Dominic if you're not, and sign up now. You can always pay more. Add $5 to your subscription like many of you have. I'm super appreciative and grateful of that. I'm here 5 days a week, sometimes more, and now it's time to get to my conversations right now. So coming up, Sam Youngman, but first I've got David Rothkopf, who I caught up with yesterday. Of course, David is a regular contributor to the Daily Beast. He's got an amazing Substack, which you should subscribe to, called Need to Know. Substack.com, of course, and you can see him contributing to all kinds of other media outlets. You got to listen to his raft of podcasts at Deep State Radio Network. Get his books, one of our favorites. Let's do it right now with Rothkopf. Okay, I've just caught up with the latest over at Deep State Radio, and now I'm ready to talk to the man himself, David Rothkopf. Very happy to see you here on a Thursday afternoon in the midst of all the chaos.
I'm very happy to see you too. Glad you're in one place, secure behind a locked door.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to get out there Saturday. I'm planning on getting out there to the protest.
You're going to go to the parade or the protest?
The protest, the local protest where I live in Rockland County. There'll be a big protest, but it looks like it's going to be rained very hard on Trump's little mini authoritarian parade.
Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. But, maybe they'll just do a fair weather date because he really likes Stalinism. He likes the whole idea of a May Day parade marching, going in front of him. And because this week, finally, you and I have been talking about this for a long time. And we were like, oh, yeah, maybe they're fascist. Maybe they're authoritarian. They're on their way. Watch out. We crossed the line. We're there, right? We are there. They're sending in troops to drag people out of their place of employment. They just dragged a U.S. senator out of a federal building, a U.S. senator out of a federal building, and arrested him in handcuffs because he had the temerity to confront Trump's cosplay Barbie, Secretary of Homeland Security.
Alex Padilla was just roughed up. We were very rough with Senator Padilla. They must love that. He didn't fight back. He just kept yelling. That was a very upsetting, dramatic scene that played out in front of him.
And how do you think that's going to play in California with their senior senator, who's a Mexican, who is a son of an undocumented immigrant? People don't like this. Trump's immigration policies are underwater. 60-40, 65-35 kind of deal. People don't like it. And they only have one choice, and that is to get worse.
What do you make of this week when Trump was addressing troops at a military base? Apparently they cast them. Apparently they said no fat.
No fatties. No fatties. No Biden-Harris supporters.
Yeah, you're invited. If you want to see the president speak and be in the shot, you can show up if you like him, and just don't be fat. But then they cheered for his attacks on a governor and another.
And on Biden, they cheered an attack on Biden.
And then he announced he was renaming all of these bases after traitors, Confederates, Robert E. Lee, et cetera. That seemed like another Rubicon, the troops cheering for a partisan speech at a campaign-style rally. What do you make of that?
Look, I did a book a couple of years ago about the Trump first administration. And in my book, I talked to Trump cabinet secretaries, the former Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, the former Secretary of Homeland Security, top generals, a lot of people who were in close at a very high level, people who worked in the White House. Every single one of them said if he gets reelected, he is going to try to essentially do what he's doing. He's going to appoint people who will say yes. Because when he tried to do this the first time around, Mark Esper, Mark Milley, they said no. So he wants to appoint people who say yes. And he wants to connect his power to the power of the military and say, I've got the ability to use the force of the most powerful military in the world to achieve my goals. And in 1 week, we've got sending the troops into LA, announcing that they're planning to send federal force into more cities, blue cities, leaking a story saying they might deploy as many as 30,000 troops to help ICE. Trump standing in front of people at Fort Bragg, actually selling merch to people at Fort Bragg, turning the army into a political prop, which is degrading it, much the same way as when he was at Arlington Cemetery at that time, posing with a thumbs up in front of rows and rows of gravestones. And then on Saturday, supposed to have this parade where the military is again as a prop. Remember, in the first term, he would refer to the leaders of the military as my generals. This week, his Secretary of the Army refers to it as his military.
I saw that. He said his army, right?
Yeah, his army. And so one of these things happening might be ill-considered or an accident or something. All of the things happening at once, it's sending a message. We have crossed a line. I'm not sure which line it is. Are we past where Orban is in Hungary? Yeah, I think we are. Are we past where Modi is in India? Maybe we are. Are we past where Erdogan is in Turkey on sort of the scale of authoritarianness? Yeah, maybe not. We're right around there. But he's heading for Putin. He's heading for Kim Jong-un. That's where he wants to be. That's the promised land.
What about free and fair midterm elections? That would seem to be a hallmark of any of those regimes that you just mentioned.
Well, all those regimes have different degrees of fair elections. All these leaders meddle in the elections. Putin has, quote, elections. They're just fake. And so the question is, what tools do they have to strip away voting rights, make it harder for people to vote, make it harder for Democratic candidates to get their message out or to raise funds, make it easier for them to use the tools of incumbency, do all the things so that they can put a thumb on the scale. They don't have to produce fake ballots. They can actually just intimidate 2, 3, 4% of the voters away, and they can win a lot of elections that way.
Yeah, I hear you, and I appreciate that warning. I think it's really important to point out what they might be able to do. What I haven't seen, and doesn't mean it hasn't happened, is anything significant that would affect the next election nationwide.
We just don't know.
Right.
We don't know. I think you're going to get some bad Supreme Court voting rights decisions.
Right.
I think you're going to see, we don't know what's happening with all the data that has gone to Elon and Doge about people and voting. We don't know what exactly Elon and those guys did in swing states the last time around that they may do again. We don't know how they'll use the DOJ to attack candidates. There are a lot of unanswered questions. If the election were held today, Trump would lose, the Republicans would lose their majority. If everything were free and fair, we'd be in a different place. I still think it's more likely than not that they lose the majority in the House. But, neither you nor I nor anybody can say, oh, that's a sure thing.
I can.
You can. Well, your crystal ball. I mean, that's why people come here and pay the big bucks to subscribe to you.
Really, I've not called anything. I did call, usually I get everything wrong. I did call that Kilmar Abrego Garcia would be back. I called that. I'm 1 for 30.
Well, I have a really strong record. The first person I ever voted for was John Anderson, which was kind of a centrist candidate for president in 1980. I was the policy chief of the very successful Evan Bayh for president campaign. Could have been secretary of something in the Evan Bayh administration. That lasted about 3 weeks. I really liked the presidential candidacy of Paul Tsongas. Thought he was a very appealing candidate. I pick losers. I pick losers. I have an uncanny knack.
Wow, your life could have turned out completely different had you served in the Evan Bayh administration.
Had I been in a high level, I did serve in the Clinton administration. And now, you know who I'm rooting for right now?
Oh.
To just reveal so your people understand just what a freak show I am. I am 100% behind Zoran Mamdani to be the next mayor.
I was gonna guess that because you're a Jew hater.
I love Jews. Some of my favorite self is Jewish, but I just think having a Muslim socialist mayor of New York is actually exactly what the country needs.
Say more, but I was not really joking because I just had Michael Cohen on the show and he flippantly said that he's a Jew hater, and I don't know. I guess he's
that's such bullshit. He just opposes the Israeli government. How can you support the Israeli government? I don't know Jews who support the Israeli government at this point.
Sure, what he was,
and it's like he supports BDS, and it's like, oh my God, so he's an anti-Semite. No, he's not. He's an anti-genocide candidate. I'm against genocide. Genocide is bad. This is freaking crazy. And I got to tell you, I think 60-70% of Jews in the United States agree with that right now.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens with that election. I've started following that. I saw this morning that apparently Andrew Cuomo's campaign, graphically made his beard darker and thicker to make him look more Muslim-y, I guess.
Andrew Cuomo is a pig. When he was in the Clinton administration, he was one of the most widely disliked cabinet secretary because he was such an arrogant princeling. But since then, as governor, he has been corrupt. He's abused women. He's been accused of, nasty stuff on a whole wide range of things because he's not a good guy. He's just not a good guy. And it's just time we stop voting for the old school people. If AOC wants Mamdani, I do. AOC is the real leader of the Democratic Party.
Say more about that. Why do you say that? Why is she the real leader of the Democratic Party, in your opinion?
Because she speaks from her heart. She speaks to a different generation's point of view. She's extremely effective at what she does. And I'm kind of exaggerating. There are a bunch of people competing for the role. But I just think she's a very, very, I'm tired of candidates who look like they're trying to get the answer right. I'm tired of candidates who think they're doing politics in 1985 when we're facing fascism. We need people to stand up and show up. You know what Padilla did, going to Kristi Noem event, standing up, saying, I have questions, and then being dragged off. That's what, Democrats need to stand up and show. Frankly, if I were Chuck Schumer right now, I'd go, all right, you go follow this guy. You go follow this guy. Right. I want you at every press conference. I want you raising your hand. I want you holding a press conference in front of their press conference. I want you to say, we are going to follow you. We are going to watch you. We are going to stand up. We are not going to be intimidated. And if you want to arrest me, arrest me.
I want to see, it's a great point, and I want to see what happens after that video goes viral. It's just been about an hour since that happened, but I want to see them push Cory Booker around like that. You're talking about effective Democrats. You mentioned AOC, and you're just talking about what Padilla did. What do you think of Governor Newsom and his performance since this all began? I saw this really, I thought, interesting, smart, like young TikToker basically saying, for those of you that aren't from California, let me tell you about Gavin Newsom. And basically just made an interesting description of Gavin Newsom. And he said, a lot of people think he doesn't like progressives, or maybe Gavin Newsom doesn't like really progressive people or some policies. But you know what he hates more than anything? Conservatives and Republicans was this young Californian TikToker's point. But what do you make of the way that he has been handling the aggression, the illegality, the mass deportations, and the reaction to them in California?
Well, look, a month ago, I would have said, he's trying to get back with Kimberly Guilfoyle, right? A month ago, he was like doing his sort of audition to be Joe Rogan's sidekick, his right. Ed McMahon on the Joe Rogan show. and I thought that was crap. Now there's stuff happening in California, and he's standing up, and we're seeing this other side of him, and I like the other side of him. Do I trust him? No, because I think he's one of those politicians who's like sticking his finger in the air, wetting it, and going, oh, which way is the wind blowing? Now, J.B. Pritzker, who like sat in front of the Senate, and they were like, immigration bad, and he's like, no, my grandparents were immigrants. This is a nation of immigrants. Yeah. Immigrants getting a chance is what this country is about. He understands what it is to speak from the heart, have principles. And that's what we need. And, you may say, well, AOC is too liberal for it. Fine. Pick somebody else. There are people who don't like a lot of the policies of Alyssa Slotkin or Jennifer Granholm, or Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan.
Yep.
But they're politicians in Michigan. And when they have to stand up and show spine, they stand up and show spine.
Yeah.
So take your pick, but no more Chuck Schumers, please. Please, no more, people looking, handing out white papers that are 40 pages long in response to something where they should have stood up and punched somebody in the nose.
A lot of strongly worded letters have been written.
Yeah, but this is all, I just did a podcast on my own podcast network that reaches dozens of people, the DSR network. And we had
I listened to 4 episodes of your podcast this morning, just to be clear. Well, I really enjoy all of it, especially you going through the day's news and stories. I love all of your reactions to things and your guests, but go ahead.
Well, so, then if you listen, that on a regular basis, Simon Rosenberg of Opium Chronicles and Tara McGowan, who runs Courier Newsrooms, come on the podcast. And so we have one of our regular conversations today. And Simon said, as he has for the past couple of years, that at the end of the day, for Trump, everything is strong versus weak. He portrays himself as strong. He portrays everybody else as weak. And Trump is the most awful public official in the history of the United States. Nobody is second, unless you count Stephen Miller. But he's despicable, right? But he's right about one thing. The American people in a moment of crisis want somebody they believe is strong, who speaks from their heart, and who can get something done. And the Democrats, they got to find people who give that vibe. They got to find people who give that vibe. And Trump is setting it up because he's doing horrible things that people don't like. Under 30% of Americans like the big, beautiful bill. Around a third of Americans are willing to support his horrible immigration policies. Almost twice as many dislike those policies. Those are the only 2 cards he's got to play. And so, the Democrats have a great opportunity here if they get actual leaders. If they get actual leaders and they don't listen to the James Carvilles and all these other bullshit artists who just go home. They've got money. They've got a beach house. Go to the fucking beach house. Shut up with this, oh yeah, let's meet Trump halfway. And, oh yeah, Americans hate immigrants. And, we've got to be tough on the immigrants. Shut the fuck up. We don't.
What did you think of ABC firing Terry Moran for his tweet about Stephen Miller's hate?
Spineless, not the first spineless thing that they've done. I can see there's just a fleck or two of gray in your beard. So, you've been around a little bit longer than some of the younger folk. So you probably remember when television network news was it. That was where power was, right? It's dead. It's dead. It died of old age, but it also died of suicide. Because what CBS has done with Trump and what ABC has done they have no credibility. They have no credibility at all. Terry Moran said Stephen Miller is full of hate. Anybody who observes Stephen Miller knows he's the most hateful American in America.
Plants know. Like if he goes nearby,
they pull away, right?
Non-human things, cats and dogs, for sure. Yeah.
My dog would bite him in the balls right away.
Happy birthday to Grizz, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. My dog's great and very peaceful, but if he gets the wrong vibe, he's like up.
I don't want to meet that dog. I'm afraid now.
What did you think, by the way, in the midst of the Elon Trump spat, which Elon has tacoed out from or mockoed out from? But in the middle of this, Elon sent a tweet and nobody's talking about it. And it was like my favorite part of the tweet where he said something to the effect of, and I left with your wife. Like he was responding to Stephen Miller and he was like, I took your wife.
I actually want to fact check that. I shared that and a smart person told me he didn't tweet it. No, and then Grok said he did tweet it. So I think he did tweet that.
Yeah, I think look, I don't know. I don't know what that story
may not
is.
Be that one.
But couldn't somebody find out, please, for us? Because I want to know. I want to know.
How come there's not more of how come it's not the only thing we're talking about with the Elon? How do you come back from saying you were in the Epstein files? It's almost like saying the president is like Hitler and then becoming his vice president. Like it is. You can say anything you want to him. You can trash his entire family. But if you turn around and apologize, you can come back in the fold, it would seem. He doesn't actually hold a grudge if you come back to him. And
but he also treats nobody with loyalty either.
Oh,
he lives in the moment. He tries to get what he needs for the moment. Yeah. And he reserves his right to do whatever the fuck he wants in the future. He doesn't believe anything he says. He doesn't believe anything anybody else says. He is like a I don't know, he's like a single-celled creature living in the bottom depths of the ocean. And all it's thinking about is, how do I get enough nutrition to live to the next second?
It's perfect. I heard you say on Deep State Radio, I was thinking this exact thing. And so when you said it, I was like, this is the person for me. You're my person. I was thinking about how this week we learned news that HHS RFK Jr. fired all 17 members of this key vaccine committee, these independent experts that decide on the vaccine schedule. You said on your show, if it were any other week or if it were any other time, this would be the top story and it would be dominating. So I do want to give it just a little bit of breath. The CDC, I mean, what's going on there under Brainworm with the crazy people? I don't know if you know this. One of the people he's appointed to replace one of those members is a jar of measles.
Yeah, I believe it. But I'll tell you something, okay? Because that's a good joke, delivered joke. But I think I'd rather an inert jar of measles than some of these actively evil people who are promoting actively dangerous ideas. Particularly if somebody leaves the jar closed. The people he's putting on there are promoting nut ideas. And everything that everybody said, by the way, I saw there's a big breaking news. Susan Collins says she's concerned.
She is?
Yeah, she's
Thank
concerned.
You for breaking in.
Yeah. But, everything he's doing is the worst thing he could do. And every person he's appointing is the worst person he could appoint because he was the worst person who could have the job.
Yeah.
And this is happening everywhere. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw the ProPublica story, small story, fell through the cracks a week ago, that The head of the DHS counterterrorism operation is now a 22-year-old.
Yeah, we talked about it. Thomas
with no experience of it. Can you imagine in any time in the 15 or 20 years after 9/11, somebody said, "Oh yeah, I don't care about counterterrorism. I'm just going to put this loser."
You see a picture of the man.
Yes, I did.
I'm not sure that we need to really say much else. I mean, people should just look at a picture. He's cosplaying. He's like many of them. It would seem like, are you willing to dress up and have this face?
No. This is the most swirlyable face that you ever saw in your. I don't know if everybody knows what a swirly is.
Yeah, dunking someone.
Dumping somebody's face in the toilet.
Yeah, he's been a blocker.
Yeah, no, he has, and I just got to say, but this is what's happening everywhere. Back to your point though about the vaccine committee. This is not just abstract.
Yeah,
this is not just a platform for people to promote crazy views. What this committee sets as the schedule of vaccines is what insurance companies pay for. So if this committee says no measles vaccine or no COVID vaccine or whatever, a bunch of insurance companies are going to go out to moms and dads across America and say, we're not paying for your kid's vaccine.
It's actually a really important point. It's the exact point that Dr. Zatz made on our weekly walk in the woods. He's a pediatrician. He told me about this story. And I said to him, he told me what you just said. The insurance companies might not pay for it. And I said to him, isn't it in the interest of any health insurance company to make sure that their people are vaccinated, because it's the cheapest way to prevent them from getting sick. It's the cheapest way for them to make maximum profits. Isn't there in their interest? And Dr. Zatz said to me as we're in the woods, he goes, yeah, I don't know, Pete, ask somebody else. That was his answer. So I don't know.
You make a good point. It actually is in their interest.
You think
they do. Look, I'll give you another one. They don't pay. There's this miracle drug out there, or series of drugs that enable people to lose weight.
Yeah.
Almost every major chronic disease people have in America is due to being overweight, because we are a nation of fatties. And the insurance companies could pay for this drug, set the price at a level, that for people that they can afford it, and not pay for dealing with chronic heart disease, for 30 years, or not pay for dealing with cancer for 30 years. They would save hundreds of thousands of dollars per person. They don't do it. They don't.
Well, when I think that drug becomes more generic and cheaper, I'm sure they'll probably pay for it.
Well, it's pretty generic. And, I mean, there are a bunch of drugs elsewhere. And by the way, I've experimented. I'm not embarrassed. That has worked for me.
You took those shots?
I do, and I've lost 35 pounds.
Oh, wow.
I feel much better.
So,
I mean, I'm not recommending it to other people, but I'm just saying, I was like, I'd like to lose weight. Does this work? Yeah, I took this. Oh, yeah, that's fine. And
you're also training for a triathlon, though. I mean, I'm sure that helps.
I'm not, but I play tennis 3 or 4 times a week, and it helps play tennis 3 or 4 times a week.
You were training for I thought you told me off air you were training for a triathlon.
No. My brother once did a triathlon in New York, and he talked to me about the swimming part was in the Hudson. Yeah. And he was swimming, and something bumped up against his face over and over, and then he looked up, and it was a dead rat. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this.
That's fair. I wouldn't choose that triathlon to start. All right, let me ask you before you go. You got this piece at the Beast. We touched on it, but I want to come back to it because it's happening this weekend. The big protests across the country. Who knows what's going to happen this weekend across the country with crackdowns, much less in Washington, D.C. I mean, I imagine there's going to be somebody who's either brave or wants attention in this world of getting followers. I mean, I'd do it if I were available. It's going to walk out in front of a tank or something and stand there. Something's going to happen in D.C. But you wrote a piece, Why Trump's Birthday Parade Risks Being a Dark Turning Point, for the Daily Beast. And I wanted to dig into it a little bit. What are your...
Well, it just goes back to the point that we started with, thus giving this episode the perfect circularity that you as the master moderator have sought for it.
Thank you.
But take what happened in LA, take what happened at Fort Bragg, take what is happening on Saturday with this parade. This is the militarization of civilian life in America. This is the president using authoritarian force to achieve his goals. And courts may say, oh, you can't throw people out of the country or whatever. But what do you think the consequence of an ICE vehicle followed by, an armored personnel carrier or Humvee pulling up to your local pizzeria is? People aren't going to go to work. They're not going to get paid. They're not going to get health care. They're going to, it's going to have a very chilling effect. And that's what they want.
Did I ask you, because we just talked about it? I mean, I do have to get your reaction to, I don't think I asked you while we were recording. I asked you if you'd seen it. Trump today kind of walked back some of these tactics on immigration. People at this point, I'm sure, have seen or heard the quote where he's like, we can't, some of these people, they're the only ones who do the jobs, and then criminals will come in and do the jobs. But it sounds like he's walking back, taking people out of their workplaces where we need them and depend on their essential workers. What do you make of that?
I think it's directly connected to him wanting to rename bases after Confederate generals.
What do you mean?
His whole view, I'll explain. His whole view of race relations in America is that people of color are essentially the possessions of rich people. And the reason he cares about hospitality workers and farm workers is that he's getting calls from people who employ them saying, hey, buddy, I can't run my business this way. And so is he doing it because he cares about the people? No. Is he doing it because he cares about the law? No. He's doing it because he cares about his rich buddies and their effectively exploited slave populations that are doing jobs that no American wants to do. So that's what he's responsive to.
I think I wonder if it's more blatant than that because he's such a fucking idiot. Because I think I heard they had to make his PDB like a cartoon or something.
They're trying to examine whether they can make it look like. But I think Fox News could have
gone to him, and there's some truth to this. What I'm about to say is like somebody could go to him and be like, "Sir, if you continue with these mass deportations going into farmers' fields, I'm telling you right now, there won't be strawberries, and Americans love their cheap, delicious strawberries. People pick those strawberries. They ended up at Costco, and I pay like $4. I got a ton of strawberries that were definitely picked by one of those people that you're trying to deport. People are going to be pissed if their strawberries aren't there and they're not cheap.
That's part of it, but people also are decent mostly, and they like their neighbors, and they like people who are working hard and contributing. I understand, but what I'm saying is there are people who are, to convince them, maybe, but there was this image Jacob Soboroff did on MSNBC yesterday.
Yeah, I saw it
this morning. Helicopter chasing farm workers through a field. And it looked to me exactly like the scene in Inglourious Bastards, where the Nazis go out and the Jews are running away through the field.
Yeah. And
this is so ugly, so fucking ugly, that I think there's also an awareness that this is hugely unpopular with the American people. There's one other thing, though, that I would rush to bring up. What they want to do is impossible. They can't actually round up 1 million people a year with the army, without the army. Because to do that, they have to start pulling away peaceful, loving citizens in society. And it's going to tear fabric of communities.
That's what they're doing now.
I understand. You know why? Because in America today, he's like, I'm going after violent criminals. I'm going after MS-13. You know how many MS-13 members there are in America?
What we're learning is what we already knew, or what some people are learning is what the vast majority of us already knew, which is that there are not, as he keeps saying, millions of criminals. There are millions of undocumented people, but most of them are working, and we should give them a pathway to citizenship because they're way better than we are at.
Most of them are here because the market said there's an opportunity because nobody else was doing those jobs. As Bill Clinton always points out, remember Bill Clinton? He always points out that, we're like 5 million people short of the jobs that exist in factories. we have labor shortages in key parts of our market,
Sure.
and we need these people to come here. And this is to say nothing of the incredibly devastating effect of having no foreign students ever going to want to study here again, because that also gets rid of innovation and leadership and stuff like that.
Am I being naive, though, to think that certain Americans who believed Trump when he said most of these people were terrible criminals are saying, wait, it doesn't seem like this person that they're taking is a bad person. They were literally at work doing hard work when they took them. Don't you think?
Well, in that tweet, he talked about that. He said some of these are loyal employees who've been there a long time.
What do you make of that?
Well, I make of that, he's getting pushed back and all of a sudden people are presenting him with different arguments. And Stephen Miller is going home at night and there's nobody there. I don't know. Maybe his wife is at home with him. But Stephen Miller is like, oh, my God, the boss is going to pull the rug out from under me. And what am I going to do with all this hate? I think there's going to be a little problem for them because they can't achieve this goal. The problem is they don't have three things they want to do. They want to pass this big bill, which everybody hates. They want to round up immigrants, which everybody hates. There is no plan C.
I love talking to you. I wish that we could do something together. Would you ever go double kayaking with me? Like we share one kayak and we both row?
No, but I would have like a cup of tea at a restaurant.
Okay. I like to do something sometimes with another.
No. Well, I know, but and I'm sure and I don't judge you, if that's the kind of thing you want to do. Yeah. I like to do nothing.
I'll play tennis with you.
I love tennis.
I'm not very good. You'll make jokes and.
No, I love tennis. I don't talk much when I play tennis. I just.
Oh, then forget it. I'll talk I'll probably want to talk about policy mainly.
Yeah. Well, but I'll go for a walk in the woods.
All right. I'll be down.
Come to Washington. We have nice, but Grizzly will go.
Yeah. You got
right by our house. There are all these horses and stuff. It's nice.
What's your tick sitch?
Lots of ticks.
Yeah. They're the worst.
Lots of ticks. My blood is strained. It's 40% Lyme disease.
Those ticks aren't going to stop me. I'll tell you that right now. I'm going to go outside.
Yeah, what could a tiny tick do to you? You're like RFK Jr. Those germs are so small. They can't hurt me.
Thank you very much for joining me. Always a pleasure, sir.
Always a pleasure. See you soon.
Yeah, David Rothkopf. Go subscribe to Deep State Radio. He's got a whole bunch of different podcasts, including The Daily Blast, hosted by Greg Sargent, which I really love. So go subscribe there. Go let him know you heard him here on Blue Sky. You can follow him over on Blue Sky and follow and subscribe to his Substack. Need to know. I'm a subscriber. You should be too. DavidRothkopf.substack.com. Always love talking with him. And another twofer on a Friday. I get to talk with one of my favorite, smartest, funniest people, Sam Youngman of the Today's Big Stuff newsletter, which I absolutely love subscribing to as well. He puts that together with his friend Adam Parkamenko, and you should head over to thealtmedia.com for more. Let's have a conversation with my good friend Sam Youngman, and you could see this. Should be able to see this on YouTube, youtube.com/standupwithpete, because we are live doing this yesterday afternoon, and let's do it right now with Sam Youngman. All right, lots to talk with you about, and thank you very much for joining me here live on the YouTube. I didn't tell anybody we're going to be here, but we're here, and I'm glad that I get to talk to you because there's a lot. We just witnessed about an hour ago the senator, your senator out there in California, Alex Padilla, walks into the press conference for Kristi Noem was having, the Department of Homeland Security. He identifies himself as a senator, and he's like, I got a lot of questions. They push him out. They lie about it, kind of what happened immediately, even though we have eyeballs. What do you make of this? This seems like an escalation, but isn't this what we want, Senator? To fight?
Goddamn right it is. Alex Padilla is my U.S. Senator, and he was doing today exactly what I want my U.S. Senators to do today. Kristi Noem was in Los Angeles uninvited, bringing chaos and violence to my city, demonizing people that live and work here. I guess I should be grateful she didn't shoot any puppies in the face today. I know that's a break from how she usually spends her time. Senator Padilla is doing what he's supposed to be doing. And let's not forget, he's the first Latino member of the U.S. Senate from California.
Right. Yeah.
I think if this isn't crossing a line, then I don't know what the hell is. I just saw Mike Johnson lying about this whole thing, and he was talking about how, he's a member of the Civility Caucus, and we've got to lower the temperature. Keep in mind, this is the same little shit that earlier this week was calling for my governor to be, quote, tarred and feathered. So I think it's really obvious that they're going to continue pushing, calling for, and executing violence, and then whining like some little wusses anytime anybody pushes back. I think they're going to hear real loud and clear this weekend how we feel about that shit.
You can never talk about civility if your boss is President Donald Trump. He's the meanest, most heartless, petty, childish son of a bitch outside of Elon Musk. Like, you can't act like you're being civil and then not push back when the boss, your dear leader, acts the way he does every single day. So it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I'll start being civil when they stop kissing the ass of a fascist dictator who wants to rule over me. I mean, it's really that simple. Don't take my freedom. Don't invade my city. Don't insult me and then tell me to be more civil. It's bullshit. I'm not, if they want respect for ICE officers, then ICE officers can start by showing respect to the communities they're in. This one-sided bullshit where we're just supposed to take all this, we're Americans. That's not how we operate. It's not how we're built. It's not in our DNA.
What do you make of dear leader today kind of walking back these mass deportations, kind of saying what we've all always known, that a lot of these people are just working and maybe we're going to have to he posted about this and he's since commented on it. What does that mean?
It sounds like cognitive decline to me. Maybe Jake Tapper can write a fucking book about it and then talk about it nonstop for 2 weeks. Look, I think it's very obvious at this point. Donald Trump doesn't have the first goddamn clue what's happening in his administration. He didn't know what Elon was doing when a drugged out South African was taking a chainsaw to the Veterans Administration. He doesn't know what Stephen Miller's doing with immigration policy. He's empowered the worst people, just absolute loser psychos, to be their worst selves. And then he's turned them loose and he doesn't know what they're doing. I'm sure he is getting a lot of calls from farmers and construction companies and other people who are seeing their businesses gutted because, you know what? Immigrants are sort of important to the American economy and they always have been, which is what we've been saying since the goddamn beginning until we were, horse in the throat. So, I'm glad he figured it out today. Welcome to the resistance, Donald Trump.
Do you think that changes anything about the tactics? Because they're talking about trying to break new records of deporting people every day. But what they are finding out, which is what they had to already know, what we all already know because we live in America and we're human beings with eyeballs and we hire people to come do stuff at our house and we go to restaurants and we go to hotels, is that the vast, vast majority of people who are here, whether they're undocumented or you think they are here to work and they are working and they're working very hard jobs. Do you think they're going to change the tactics as a result of realizing that they're not all rapists and murderers?
I don't see how they can't. They'd have a full-on revolt from their base. Because, I think what this is sort of revealing is the inherent lie in all of the anti-immigration stuff. It's not about following the law. It's about racism. It's about bigotry. It's about not wanting people with brown skin here speaking a different language. Trump's all too late realization that Americans don't want to work on farms, that Americans don't want to clean hotel rooms, that Americans don't want to do the things that hardworking immigrants have been busting their ass to do in this country for a long time. It's an obvious truth, but it's also incompatible with the lie. And so I think what you're seeing is a man who is stuck between a rock and a hard place, and he created both. The problem with Trump is he'll say something to give you a sliver of hope at 4:00, and then at 4:15 he's completely forgotten that, and he's gone back to doing whatever crazy shit he's doing at that moment. I would love it if he would fold and cave like Elon did. I would love it if he would stop, attacking my city, attacking the hardworking people who live here. But there's no universe where I could ever trust that to be the case.
Talk to me a little bit more about your own personal feelings and observations on what it's like to be in Southern California right now through all of this. What have you seen? What's the chatter? What's in the zeitgeist? We hear about people saying that folks are afraid to go to work. Have you noticed it? Have you observed it? What's it been like for you?
It has been shockingly normal here. The idea that LA is a war zone is about the most ridiculous shit I can possibly imagine. I surfed with dolphins this morning, and then I came home and saw hummingbirds playing in my backyard. I mean, it's crazy. Like, for a city that always has LAPD helicopters flying over, it's actually been kind of quiet.
Hold on, let's just
wild.
comment on how amazing at least your day sounded like a fucking Disney movie. Like, did you, I don't know if you heard it, like you surfed with dolphins in the morning and then hung out with hummingbirds. Are you a cartoon?
I'm an animal whisperer. Yes, I am like Dr. Doolittle. Yeah, I don't
nice.
have any
That's
human.
beautiful.
I don't have any human friends, but the animals really like them.
That's beautiful. It's lovely. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, it's shockingly normal, is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's just wild to like live in this really beautiful, amazing city with all these wonderful people, and then you turn on cable news and they're talking about it like it's fucking Fallujah, and it's just like, it's one thing when you suspect the press are lying. It's quite another to see it with your own eyes.
What do you think about your governor? What did you think about him before all of this, and how do you think he's handling it?
Well, those are two very different answers.
I know, I figured.
Well, I wasn't a huge fan when he was hanging out with Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk. I thought that was embarrassingly naked and ambitious, and nakedly ambitious. But he's doing what we need him to do. He's stepping up. He's defending his state. He's calling out the stuff we need him to call out. I don't particularly care for how he got here, but he's here, and I'm grateful to him. I really am. I'm grateful to him. I can go back and forth on Karen Bass. But Gavin has been as strong this week as I needed him to be, as we needed him to be. Because, I mean, there's really no other way to put this. The federal government has invaded L.A. Kristi Noem said today she wants to, quote, liberate the city from socialists. Nobody asked her to fucking do this.
Right.
We live, the people she's coming after are democratically elected. We voted for them. She doesn't get to substitute her judgment for ours. So yeah, I want to see Alex Padilla doing what he's doing. I want to see Gavin Newsom's doing what he's doing. I want to see him fight. I want to see him push back, because enough is enough.
Enough is enough, and that's seemingly what he is saying, and pretty much every other leader in California and in the Democratic Party seems to be as well. And after what happened today with Alex Padilla, I can only imagine what the reaction from the U.S. Senate, much less other Democrats, elected Democrats, is going to be. But they're going to have to be in.
There's a lesson here, right? Like, Newsom wanted to try and extend an olive branch to the right-wing nut jobs. Just yesterday, Alex Padilla voted, along with Adam Schiff, my two senators, to advance Trump's bullshit crypto bill. I understand the good-hearted, good government nature of our Democrats who want to pass policy. I understand them wanting to do their jobs, but I think what they need to appreciate now, and hopefully do after the incidents of these last few days, is that there's no reward in trying to make friends with fascists. You fight them, you defeat them, and that's it.
Yeah, very well said. I agree fully. Speaking of which, what did you make of some of the events that happened this week? I'll talk about what's coming up this weekend. But what did you make of the president addressing actual members of the military and then announcing that he's going to rename a whole bunch of bases after the Confederate soldiers that tore this country apart, traitors? Yeah. What did you make of that whole that day? What transpired? That seemed like a real new moment,
Yeah. No, I mean, it was one of the most unsettling and embarrassing things to ever happen to this country until the next unsettling and embarrassing thing that, Trump did to this country. Military.com had a really shocking story about how those troops were vetted to make sure that A, they support Trump and his policies, and that B, they looked the part. There was even a quote, no fat soldiers, which is just astonishing to me. It's a truly sickening insult of the people that wear the uniform. But a lot of those guys insulted themselves, by choosing to boo, again, the democratically elected leaders of my city, of my state, by choosing to take part in a political rally, for a military that for almost 250 years has been famously apolitical, the envy of the world in that regard. Well, I might be stretching a little bit, but it's, upsetting isn't a strong enough word. what happens when Kristi Noem turns those guys loose on Alex Padilla? Am I supposed to be afraid of the military of my own country? Is that the way this is supposed to work?
It's a crazy moment to even have to consider it. What'd you make of Pete Hegseth's testimony on Capitol Hill this week?
I think we're all going to die. No, look, he's a moron. He's got, tons of arrogance and not much else.
Yeah.
We also know from the first Trump administration that Pete really has a soft spot for war criminals. He likes the guys that kill civilians.
Yeah.
So when he's refusing to say if he would honor the Constitution, I find it pretty fucking alarming. But I also found it pretty alarming when we made a allegedly drunk/rapist our Secretary of Defense, even though he hadn't done anything for the last decade except be on TV.
What about Scott Bessent? He's also on Capitol Hill. Boy, that guy is a fucking weirdo. He's a weird. The way he talks is very hesitant. He's kind of stuttering. I don't like to make fun of a stutter, but he is not out of central casting like Hegseth is. I mean, Hegseth's straight ahead and he's tough. He's dumb and he says dumb shit. And sometimes when he's talking, it just seems like puffs of smoke are coming out of his face. But this guy Bessent, he's real awkward and seemingly insecure. He makes bad jokes. He's way out of it. I can't believe that guy's a person. That's my commentary on it. But
I think he's in absolute hell right now. I think he's one of those rare people in Trump land who knows how stupid the stuff he's defending is every day. And I think I'll put it this way. I am delighting in his misery because he looks like a very unhappy, uncomfortable person. And I take some pleasure in knowing that the stench of his crimes against this country will follow him for the rest of his life. Or I hope so anyway.
What do you make of the actual testimony about the bill, mostly being asked about the debts and deficits that it creates? And I haven't even talked to you. Of course, I've been reading the newsletter, but since Elon Musk himself said this bill is abominable, it creates all kinds of debt and deficit, and then said that Trump's in the Epstein files. But I mean, nobody, no independent source, no conservative source, because conservative outlets generally, or scoring think tanks, et cetera, policy places, they don't like debt and deficits. There's no way to score it as not be creating budget deficit and more adding to the national debt. And everybody knows that's what happens when you cut taxes and don't cut spending at equivalent rates. But he's been asked about that. What do you make of all the controversy over the massive debts it creates, according to Elon fucking Musk?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? None of this is hard. It's not complicated. We know what this bill does. It hurts poor people, it helps rich people, and it blows up the deficit. That's not complicated. It's not even really that hard it's not even really that disputed. So what do you do if that's the case and you still got to defend it? Well, you just lie. You just lie. You just say, CBO, they don't get stuff wrong. I saw this video of Tim Scott today. He's like, the CBO got this thing wrong in the 1940s. It's hey, somebody tell Tim Scott the CBO didn't exist till 1974.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, we're seeing it right now with Alex Padilla. They just lie. They just make up their own reality because they know the New York Times is too chicken shit to defend the actual reality. So they'll get their own version out there right along next to it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And they're doing a pretty good job at that. But you just got to wonder how that is seen by the public. I guess, there's the MAGA. We don't really even ask what MAGA thinks or what's going to break the fever, or when there's hypocrisy, do they notice it? We don't spend a lot of time there anymore, right? Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I was on a chat earlier and somebody asked, will this Padilla thing, will that be a tipping point for Republican senators? And it's Trump tried to kill them. He sent a violent mob to their home to kill them. And they were kissing his ass less than 24 hours later. Some of them didn't even wait that long. So no, there is no tipping point that's coming. We are our only hope.
We are our only hope. So that brings us to this weekend. There's rallies all around the country.
Hell yeah.
What's going to happen in Washington, D.C.? Somebody's going to stand in front of a tank.
I mean, if they do, they'll be my hero. I'm praying for rain. Anything that embarrasses that asshole, I'm in favor of. It sucks because I actually do support the troops. I actually do respect our military. I actually do like to celebrate them. My father was a 2-star general. My brother fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. I would love to be in a position to actually celebrate the military. But how the fuck can I possibly do that after what I saw in Fort Bragg this week? It's it's to all of our loss that Trump is defiling the military the way he is. I hate it for them as much as I hate it for the rest of us.
I did not know your father was a 2-star general. Who is your father?
I don't know. We don't talk much. It's where I got my problem with authority.
But you respect his service despite your personal differences.
Damn right.
Fuck. Can we do a whole hour on that? Just you on the couch?
Yeah, I already did with my therapist.
Talk to me about General Father. Shit.
It's a pretty recurring theme with me.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I'm inspired by what I'm seeing with people out in the streets and people joining in all kinds of different spaces against this. These
yeah, me too.
These arrests are images that go viral every time. And it would seem that I rank it like there's MAGA people who are political. Then there's like apathetic people who don't pay any attention to politics. And then there's people, all the way to those of us that, do it for a living and follow the news all day, every day. But I got to imagine that some of those categories, like the apathetic especially, people don't pay attention to politics. They see these ICE raids and they know these are good people. They see them tearing apart families. I feel like it's waking people up, and I feel like, people keep saying it, but it's got to get worse before anything gets better. I don't know. I don't know where the bottom is, but I feel like we're bouncing around it.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm always curious myself about what's breaking through.
Yeah.
What gets to the voter who has 3 kids who have to get to soccer practice, band practice, softball practice, and doesn't follow the news, not because they don't care, because there's just only so much time in the day. I'm always curious about what reaches them. And I have to believe a United States senator being thrown to the ground is one of those things. Or at least I sure as hell hope so.
And it's not your kid's hot Brazilian soccer coach just got deported. Like people, even the people that you described, like their help is being that's what I'm saying. Like, I just feel like these mass deportations are affecting all different kinds of business sectors and individuals themselves and communities. You see like these MAGA voting communities defending someone who they love being deported. Like, not her. She's wonderful. Not that one. That's the one I know.
Yeah, and all it took was to almost affect them personally, right? I mean,
always. That's real life.
It's enormously frustrating, but if that's what it fucking takes to get these people to start seeing their fellow humans as actual humans instead of something to just be demagogued and attacked, okay. It's just a shame that it took that much to get them to care.
That's right. I agree with that. That's why we're constantly trying to fight apathy. You and I, we did it again. And in our Kings shirts, we both got pretty dressed up.
No, I can't wear this Saturday.
Are you going somewhere?
Yeah, hell yeah, man. I'll be out there. Even if I had been on the fence, attacking my U.S. senator, that gets me in the streets. I'm ready to go.
I 100% fell for and shared on like every social media platform that white dude yelling at the National Guard was. You
thought it was Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn's
100%.
Kid?
I shared that.
He was wearing a King shirt too.
I was positive it was him. It was not him. Yeah. It's not him.
He's a talented kid, though. If you ever want to see a really funny movie, Everybody Wants Some is the follow-up to Dazed and Confused. And he plays like a pot-smoking hippie college baseball pitcher. And
the dude's great. Dude's great, but what made me think, like, more important than anything, you're out there, I'm out there. Like, white people need to be out there and need to be outraged. And not just like old, crunchy white people, which is most of what I've seen so far, but like all the white people.
Yeah. Listen to my accent. I feel like I told somebody the other day, somebody who sounds like me and looks like me, it's an obligation to speak up right now.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you did, and I'm glad that you do, and I'm glad that you did some of it with me today. I appreciate you, buddy, and thank you for stopping by and slumming it with us.
Pete, you are the best, man. Thanks for fighting a good fight. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, bud. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, there he goes, Sam Youngman. Go subscribe to everything that he's doing, thealtmedia.com, and, of course, on social media, Blue Sky, Twitter, and he's so great. David Rothkopf and Sam Youngman on today's show. So sorry I didn't get your headlines and clips up here on a busy Friday, but it's nuts. It's nuts. Lots going on, and I got to run out of here. But I will have a conversation, it looks like, with Christian Finnegan for tomorrow, too. Don't ask me how I'm sneaking that in, but I'm going to get it done. And Saturdays with Christian. Always love that. So hopefully that'll be great and should drop either later today or tomorrow. And that is it. That's all I've got. What a week. 5 episodes of the show. It looks like I'll have 8 guests for the week, so 2 the other day, 2 today, and 1 tomorrow. Super busy. Can't do it without you, and hopefully you're noticing it, all of it that I put into it, and that's why you pay, and maybe you'll want to pay more. Maybe you'll want to tell friends, spread the word. I hope that you will be going to a protest or doing something tomorrow, whatever it is. I appreciate all of your support here on the podcast and in our community. Join the Discord if you are going to a protest. Let people know. And that is all I've got for you. John Carroll writes and performs all the music for the show. And go buy his new album, johncarroll.org, right now. Okay, have a great weekend, everybody. Make sure you take care of yourself, your loved ones, your friends, your mental health. And do a lot of squat thrusts and hamstring stretching this weekend. That's my suggestion to you. It'll really make a difference. Thanks so much, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
You know they can't deny what you did.